Well, we had Edu, and now we're going to have Mariameno Kapa-Kingi, because this was an awesome interview that I watched on Mata with Mihingarangi Forbes. And we've just got a couple of parts of the interview that we're going to watch. And the first part we're going to listen to is her talking about why they have decided that now is the right time to have a treaty commissioner.
Why we think this is the time to put in a body, an individual, a system that knows and understands our way of life, the promises that were made, the promise that was made all that many years ago, 1835, 1840. So we want a watchdog person and persons that have our interests in mind, and that can carry what is, we believe, is still a critical piece of work, which has, to be honest, never really been honoured in the way in which we would expect, in the way in which we signed up, in the way, under the terms in which we allowed whānau to live with us. So that's essentially what it's about, and certainly it shows up, particularly in the last year or so, why it's probably needed even more of any other time in our history, since the undoing of these last 400 days of 180 years. Here in 400 days, this lot decide that they know what's better for us and about us, but not discuss it with us.
Which is just facts. Just absolute facts. This is the time. She also does speak a bit about the fact that, she's worked in this a long time. She has seen the ombudsman, which, if you don't know what the ombudsman, they are basically a third party that are they're the one who watch the watchers. They're the one that keep an eye on like governments, different departments. They're the ones that do a lot of those investigations. She has worked in a lot of different areas, so she understands like the mechanisms and how they work together and how they don't work together really fucking well. Like, she is insanely knowledgeable, and the way that she just put all of that together, in my opinion, like, I feel like we need to get her talking way more from Te Pāti Māori after I've watched this interview, to be honest, because she's just, and yeah, she's just so good. We will skip forward a little bit and we'll just hear her speaking around. Actually, this is kind of something that kind of affirms what Pat pointed out about, the fact that the top national members weren't there. And also just she kind of puts her perspective in how she observes, the coalition and the way that they're working together.
From here, a kaitiaki of the Tiriti, what do you make of that?
Well, they're voting with their feet. They are showing themselves to the rest of the motu that, and they'll provide their own sort of, the treaty wasn't signed just here. They talk like that. It's nonsense. So, but these, and they'll excuse themselves for going, they didn't want to see, and I might feel a little bit at risk. So I think it's a betrayal to the things that they talk about. They can run the line, but they can't walk the talk. So come and face it. Come and face it, be that game. But don't be foolish enough that there will be people here that don't want to see you in any case, because we are trapped in that. So do we want them? Do we not want them? Do we, whatever they're going to say, it's going to wind people up. That's what I make of it. I make that that the last year is this, it's just lead to this point of, you're going to treat us that poorly, dismiss in 25 different bills or so, take the words Maori. We won't have any Maori in it. We won't have any culture. We won't talk about Te Tiriti or Waitangi or the treaty. We won't talk about any of that because that's just too brown for ACT Party. So therefore it's too brown for the coalition. And the Prime Minister, he can't handle his cabinet, clearly, because this team that sits next to us across the little alleyway there, they're running the show.
You're referring to the ACT Party?
I am.
Sit across the...
Yes.
And I love the way she just straight out says it. She is calling it like it fucking is. And just beautiful.
No, I think we need more of her on screen.
Don't worry, we've got more points. I've got more. There's more. There's more for Maria to talk to us about.
There is a feeling that is different, and maybe that's just because I don't think I've seen Oh, I don't think we've all seen enough of her in Parliament or in the media or sort of media facing. But there's a sense of wisdom that perhaps the co-leaders, right? Debbie and is it Rawiri?
Yeah.
They're co-leaders, right?
I believe, yeah, they're co-leaders.
Yeah. I think with them having been seen quite a lot, and the way that they interact with the media is quite different. Do you agree?
Oh,
This feels
absolutely.
very much like a little bit more like holding your hands and sort of telling,
Well,
like the aunt, that idea of the auntie that they talked about,
very
right?
warm, maternal, and kind of comforting. She's very comforting. She does. I mean, I won't play it right now, but there is actually a part of the interview that I think is really amazing that she talks about, and she actually talks about how she is perceived like that, and how often when she does come out and straight shoot, like she said just did about the ACT Party, people often get taken aback because they're like, oh, but she's so well spoken for a Maori, because people do. She grew up in a time, we also have to remember her age. She grew up in a time where it was very different. She didn't have the access to, like people of that generation didn't have the access to things that we had. Her generation are some of the ones that were fighting the hardest for us in very recent years. So, there is a lot that she has had to assimilate. And because of that assimilation, she's managed to I just think it's really impressive how she's managed to find a way to both keep, some of those things she's obviously learned, but also then marry them with that decolonizing and that, embracing of her Māoriness as well, which a lot of people can struggle to do when they've assimilated. So that's something that people also have to be really aware of. I mean, look at Winston Peters. It's not great, but yeah, I love her, and she is warm. And this thing is, she cares, and that's probably another reason why maybe you're finding it a bit strange, is because how many times do we have people in Parliament that actually care, that also don't have to yell? Because a lot of the times we have to yell, and it's really fucking irritating. So yeah, there's a lot of those. This is just a quick little snippet where she's actually quickly talking about something that she noticed with the Karen Chihua Oranga Tamariki stuff, because she actually used to work within Oranga Tamariki. So
all of this change and all of this disruption, or that change that she's bringing under 7AA, for instance, if I can just talk about it, is based on only two reverse uplifts. Suddenly, she talks about reverse uplifts equals reverse racism. It's nutty. Those two concepts cannot, if you understand the definition of racism, if you understand any of that analysis, you just simply can't talk that way. But she does talk that way because she is completely, her thinking is flawed. Her experience is her own, and kāroha ki aia, but anyone that survives the system does not automatically give you the real understanding that is needed in their role.
But yeah, I mean, very, very, very good thing to point out. They did very much sell it that way, that doing reverse uplifts means reversing racism in New Zealand. Yeah, and for anyone who wasn't sure, that kāroha ki aia is my heart goes out to you. She's like, I have empathy for you, but your experience is your experience, and basing that off of two cases is ridiculous. And this is part of why we need a commissioner to be looking into these things, so that we don't continuously have shit like this happening, where the Waitangi Tribunal doesn't even get given the time to be able to do what they need to do before it gets rushed onto the fucking Parliament floor. They keep attacking us, and then I've seen a few comments where people are like, oh, we can't get violent, we can't get mad. Yeah, but how many times does a dog have to be kicked before it bites back? Because you can only abuse someone so much for so long before, they get a little sick of it. They get a little over it. And this is kind of some of the last bits we'll cover of this, but this is actually her discussing, because Mihi brings up Paul Goldsmith and comments that he made on 2025 being the year that he's going to focus on settlements, and asked her if she's hopeful that Ngāpuhi will finally get their settlements.
The word settlement, it's, you know, I mean, I'm sure that's been said by others before me, but it's settling these Maoris down is what I think in Ngāpuhi land, I want to say. Like, let's just settle these Maoris, because they're getting a little bit noisy now, right? So we're going to drive the settlement through. We're going to settle you whether you want it or like it or not, right? We're going to settle you down. So that's how I interpret their thinking, and they're, you know, they're puffed up enough, because they've rammed through many a bill in the last year. They're puffed up to believe that they can do that.
And then we're going to quickly skip past a little bit of this, which, I mean, she is true. They are very, very emboldened.
She really is calling a spade, isn't she?
Oh, I know, right? Isn't she amazing? This is why I was like, we need to have her on the show tonight.
There's no kind of like beating around the bush. It's like,
nah,
she's just calling a spade a spade. I kind of like this. This is a vibe I can get with. Where is this
feel like, right? I mean, maybe this is something we'll try go for this year.
To engage in it, but none of them are talking about we're engaged. We might go some way down that track of a settlement, but none of it will be at the cost of ceding sovereignty. So we're not going to do that. So you can say we never ceded sovereignty. We're not going to do any of this at all. If you're going to say let your sovereign whatever fade into the abyss, we're not going to do that. So yeah, and you know, when we listen to our whānau and 100,000 other people and so on, I'm not hopeful. Yeah, I'm not hopeful. He is the minister that said colonisation was on balance okay for us. I mean, what a nutty thing to say. What a disgusting, abhorrent thing to say. So no, I'm not. I'm reminding myself of it and thinking it's I'm not hopeful.
Which, I mean, I'll be honest, I kind of forgot about that. I think my brain had locked it away where the trauma sits, you know, or something. But I was like, oh,
I think it's
God.
just in a pile of shit like the rest of it. So you kind of, you know, just something new every day, and it just gets lost in the weeds.
And that's it. And I mean, that's the thing is, that's why I was like, if I implore everyone, obviously we did cover a decent chunk of some of that, but like, go watch the whole thing. Honestly, maybe even just look up Mariameno and just look at what she's done. Find anything, because I could listen to her talk forever. I swear to God.
No, that's cool. Let's see if we can get her on the show. That would be very cool. I feel like that would be a very candid and very straightforward conversation.
God,
I'm here for it.
That would be a life dream, honestly.